They called me worthless. I inherited $35 million and proved them wrong. I'm sitting in my penthouse apartment right now, looking at a framed photo of my grandmother, and I still can't believe how everything turned out. But let me start from the beginning, because this story is about patience, playing the long game, and the sweetest revenge I've ever witnessed, my own. My name doesn't matter, but you can call me Alex. I'm 32 now, but this story really begins when I was 17. I grew up in what looked like the perfect family. My father owned a successful commercial real estate company worth about $50 million. We had the big house, the fancy cars, the country club membership. But behind closed doors? It was a nightmare. My older brother, Cameron, was the golden child. Star quarterback, straight A's, charming smile. He could do no wrong. Me. I was the screw-up. I had dyslexia that went undiagnosed until I was 14, which meant I struggled in school. I was awkward, preferred books to sports, and worst of all, I asked questions. Why do you treat Cameron better than me, Dad? When he's worth asking about, I'll treat you equally. That was the kind of thing my father said to me regularly. My mother just stood by and let it happen. She was too worried about maintaining appearances to actually parent. But my grandmother, my father's mother, she saw through it all. Margaret Chen was a force of nature. She'd immigrated from Taiwan in the 1960s, built a successful textile import business from nothing, and had more wisdom in her little finger than my entire family combined. Alex, she told me once, your family doesn't see your value because they're blind. But I see you. You're the one with character. She was the only one who believed in me. When I was 25, my grandmother passed away. I was devastated. She was the only family member I actually loved. The funeral was a circus. My father and his two siblings, Aunt Linda and Uncle Robert, were already circling like vultures. Grandma had been worth about $40 million. Her business, properties, investments. Everyone assumed it would be split 3 ways between her children. The will reading was scheduled for a week after the funeral. The whole family showed up. My parents, Cameron, Aunt Linda and her husband, Uncle Robert and his 3 kids, and me. The lawyer, Mr. Peterson, cleared his throat and began reading. To my son James, my father, I leave $1 million in my pearl necklace, hoping he'll give it to someone who deserves it. My father's face went red. 1 million? Out of 40? To my daughter Linda, I leave $1 million in my jade bracelet, with hope she'll remember what real value looks like. Aunt Linda gasped. To my son Robert, I leave $1 million in my gold watch, hoping he'll use his time more wisely. Uncle Robert stood up. This is insane. She promised us. Sit down, Mr. Peterson said coldly. I'm not finished. To my grandchildren Cameron, Jessica, Michael and David, I leave $100,000 each for your education, provided you actually use it for education. Cameron's jaw dropped. He'd been counting on millions. The remainder of my estate, approximately $35 million in assets, including my business, properties, and investments, I leave entirely to my grandson, Alex Chen. The room exploded. I sat there in shock while my family screamed. My father lunged at me, actually lunged, before Uncle Robert held him back. This is fraud, my father yelled. She was senile. He manipulated her. Mr. Peterson calmly pulled out a document. Mrs. Chen anticipated this reaction. She had a full psychiatric evaluation done 6 months ago. She was of completely sound mind. Additionally, she left this letter to be read if anyone contested the will. He opened an envelope and read in my grandmother's voice. She'd recorded it. To my children. I gave you everything. I paid for your education, your first homes, your business ventures. And you squandered my generosity by becoming entitled, cruel, and greedy. You raised your children the same way. Except for Alex. James, you treated your youngest son like garbage because he didn't fit your narrow definition of success. You broke that boy's spirit over and over, and I watched you do it. Linda, you've spent the last 20 years gossiping about everyone in this family, spreading poison. Robert, you've borrowed money from me 12 times and never paid back a cent, lying each time about investments. Alex is the only one who visited me every week, not because he wanted something, but because he loved me. He's the only one who asked about my life, my stories, my dreams. He's the only one with integrity. So yes, he gets everything. And if any of you can test this will, I've instructed Mr. Peterson to donate the entire estate to charity instead. You'll get nothing. My father turned to me, his face purple with rage. You poisoned her against us. I visited her every Sunday for 10 years, I said quietly. Where were you? I walked out while they screamed at each other. The next 2 years were hell. My family didn't contest the will. They couldn't without losing everything, but they made my life miserable. My father tried to get me fired from my job at a marketing firm. He called my boss, told him I was unstable, a drug addict, a thief. Fortunately, my boss knew me well enough to ignore him. Cameron started spreading rumors that I'd sexually harassed women at college. Completely fabricated, but the accusations followed me. I had to hire a lawyer to send cease and desist letters. My mother called me once, crying, begging me to do the right thing and share the inheritance. When I refused, she told me I was dead to her. Aunt Linda tried to sue me, claiming my grandmother had verbally promised her the textile business. She had no proof. The case was dismissed, but it cost me $50,000 in legal fees. Uncle Robert tried a different approach. He showed up at my apartment, drunk, and tried to beat me up. I called the police. He was arrested. But the worst was the social warfare. They turned the entire extended family against me. Cousins I'd grown up with wouldn't talk to me. Family friends crossed the street when they saw me. I was uninvited from every family event, every wedding, every funeral. They painted me as the villain who'd stolen their inheritance through manipulation and lies. I was completely alone. But here's what they didn't know. I'd been planning something. My grandmother's textile business was outdated. It was profitable but barely. Most of the value was in her real estate and stock portfolios. I could have just sold everything, lived off the interest, and never worked again. Instead, I took a massive risk. I sold the textile business for $8 million. I kept the real estate but mortgaged it heavily to raise capital. In total, I had about $15 million liquid cash to invest. Remember how I said I worked in marketing? I'd been watching the tech industry closely. This was 2017. I found 3 startups that I believed in. One in renewable energy storage, one in telehealth, and one in AI-driven logistics. I invested $5 million in each. My father heard about it through the business grapevine. He called me for the first time in a year, laughing. You idiot. You're going to lose everything. Tech startups? Margaret would be ashamed of you. I hung up on him. For 2 years, I worked 80-hour weeks. I wasn't just an investor. I was actively involved in these companies. I used my marketing expertise to help them grow. I networked, strategized, pushed. In 2019, the renewable energy company was acquired by Tesla for $400 million. My stake? $47 million. In 2020, during the pandemic, the telehealth company exploded. We went public. My stake? $89 million. In 2021, the logistics company signed a massive contract with Amazon. Valuation tripled. My stake? $34 million. In 4 years, I'd turned $35 million into $170 million. While I was building an empire, my family was falling apart. My father's real estate company struggled after the 2008 recession and never fully recovered. By 2020, he was in serious debt. He'd been living beyond his means for years, assuming he'd eventually get my grandmother's money to bail him out. He came to me, hat in hand, in late 2020. Alex, I need help. The business is going under. I need a loan. $5 million. I'll pay you back, I swear. I looked at the man who'd called me worthless my entire childhood. No. What? I'm your father. You're a stranger who happens to share my DNA. You told me I was worth nothing. You told me I'd fail. You turned my entire family against me. And now you want my help. Please, Alex. I'm begging you. Remember what you told me when I was 17. When you're worth asking about, I'll treat you equally. You're not worth asking about, Dad. I closed the door on him. His company filed for bankruptcy 3 months later. He lost everything. The house, the cars, his reputation. Last I heard, He's working as a property manager in Arizona. Cameron's story is even better. Remember those sexual harassment accusations he fabricated about me? Karma is real. In 2021, he was actually accused of harassment at his workplace, legitimately. Multiple women came forward. He was fired, sued, and lost. He's now working at a car dealership and divorced. Aunt Linda's husband left her after discovering she'd been having an affair for 5 years. She's alone in a small apartment, surviving on her $1 million inheritance, which is almost gone because she never learned to budget. Uncle Robert drank himself to death in 2022. I didn't go to the funeral. But here's where the story gets good. In 2019, while building my businesses, I met someone. Her name was Sarah, and she was a software engineer at one of my portfolio companies. She was brilliant, kind, and had absolutely no idea who my family was or how much money I had. We fell in love the old-fashioned way, over coffee breaks and late-night coding sessions and terrible takeout food. I told her everything about my family on our 5th date. I expected her to run. Instead, she held my hand and said, "That's not your family. Your family is whoever you choose to love and who chooses to love you back." We got married in 2021. Small ceremony. Close friends only. No relatives. Sarah introduced me to her family. Warm, chaotic, loving Puerto Rican family who adopted me immediately. Her parents, 3 siblings, 12 cousins, aunts, uncles. Suddenly I had Sunday dinners and birthday parties and people who actually cared about me. For the first time in my life, I understood what family was supposed to feel like. In 2022, Sarah and I started the Margaret Chen Foundation. We focus on 3 things. Scholarships for first-generation immigrants and their children, support for kids with learning disabilities, small business grants for women and minority entrepreneurs. We've given away $30 million so far. Every scholarship recipient gets a letter telling them about my grandmother's story, and mine. Last month, I got an email from one of our scholarship recipients. She's a 19-year-old girl from Vietnam with dyslexia, just like me. She wrote, "Your foundation changed my life. My parents didn't understand my learning disability. They thought I was stupid. Your scholarship paid for my tutoring and my first year of college. I'm studying engineering now. I'm going to make you proud." I cried reading that email. That's when I realized, this was my grandmother's revenge all along. Not against her children but for me. She gave me the tools to build a life where I didn't need their approval, their love, or their acceptance. 3 months ago, I ran into my mother at a coffee shop in San Francisco. She looked old, tired. She didn't recognize me at first. I've changed a lot. Better clothes, better posture, confidence. When she finally realized who I was, she started crying. "Alex, please. Can we talk?" Against my better judgment, I sat down. "Your father and I are struggling," she said. "We're living in a small apartment in Arizona. He works 60 hours a week just to pay rent. Cameron won't help us. We have nothing." "I know," I said. "Can you help us? Please. I'm sorry for everything. We were wrong. You were always a good son, and we didn't see it." I stirred my coffee, thinking about all the times I'd wanted to hear those words. How much they would have meant when I was 15, or 20, or even 25. "Mom, do you remember my 23rd birthday?" She looked confused. "I know. Exactly. You forgot it. But do you know who remembered? Grandma. She baked me a cake and we ate it together in her living room. Just the 2 of us. She told me stories about immigrating to America, about building her business, about being strong." "Alex, I don't hate you," I said. "I don't hate any of you anymore. I just don't care. You're strangers to me. And strangers don't get to ask me for money." I stood up to leave. "Wait," she said desperately. "What would your grandmother want you to do?" I turned back and smiled. She'd want me to do exactly what I'm doing. Living well, loving deeply, and helping people who actually deserve it. I walked out. That night, I went home to Sarah and our daughter, little Margaret, named after her great-grandmother. She's 3 years old, has my grandmother's smile, and is already showing signs of being smarter than both of us combined. I read her a bedtime story, kissed her goodnight, and walked out to our balcony where Sarah was waiting with wine. "You okay?" she asked. You've been quiet since you got home. I saw my mother today. She tensed. What happened? Nothing really. She asked for money. I said no. How do you feel? I thought about it. Free. And I am. Because here's what I finally understand. Revenge isn't about destroying the people who hurt you. That's just collateral damage from living well. Real revenge is building a life so good, so full of love and purpose and meaning, that their absence becomes meaningless. It's looking at the people who called you worthless and realizing that their opinion never mattered in the first place. My father is working at 65 years old to survive. Cameron's reputation is destroyed. My aunts and uncles are bitter and alone. But me? I wake up every morning next to someone who loves me. I have a daughter who'll never doubt her worth. I have a chosen family that fills my life with joy. And I spend my days giving opportunities to people like my younger self. Kids who are told they're not good enough but have potential the world hasn't seen yet. Last week, I got a letter from my father's lawyer. He passed away. Heart attack. Quick at least. In his final days, he'd written me a letter. The lawyer said he'd been working on it for months. I almost threw it away without reading it. Sarah convinced me to open it. It was 6 pages, handwritten, shaky letters. Alex, I'm dying, and I need you to know the truth. I was wrong about everything. I was wrong about you. Wrong about what makes someone valuable. Wrong about what matters in life. You were never the disappointment. I was. I was the father who couldn't see his son's worth because I was too broken inside to recognize real character when I saw it. Your grandmother knew. She always knew. And she gave you everything because you deserved everything. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. I just need you to know that my greatest regret isn't losing the money or the business. It's losing you. You turned out better than all of us. You became the man I should have been. I'm proud of you, son. I should have said it every day of your life. I'm sorry I never did. Your father. I read it twice. Then I folded it up and put it in a box with my grandmother's letters. Are you okay? Sarah asked. Yeah, I said. And I meant it. Because the thing about revenge is, eventually, you don't need it anymore. You've already won. Some of you have been asking for updates. So here's what's happened since I wrote this. I didn't go to my father's funeral. I sent flowers with a note. I forgive you but I don't miss you. My mother contacted me one more time, asking if I'd received my father's letter and if it changed anything. I told her the same thing I told her at the coffee shop. I don't hate them, but I don't have room in my life for people who only valued me once I became successful. The Margaret Chen Foundation just funded its 500th scholarship. We're expanding to include mental health services for kids with learning disabilities. Sarah's pregnant with our second child. Another girl. We're naming her Grace. Cameron reached out last month. He's apparently in therapy and wanted to make amends. We had coffee. He apologized. I accepted his apology but made it clear that forgiveness doesn't mean reconciliation. We're not enemies, but we're not brothers either. Maybe one day. Not today. I visited my grandmother's grave last week with little Margaret. I told her great-grandmother about her life, the foundation, the scholarships, the family we're building. My daughter picked a flower and put it on the headstone. Great-grandma would like you, I told her. I like her too, Margaret said. And I realized, this is how you honor someone's legacy. Not by holding on to anger or seeking revenge, but by taking the love they gave you and multiplying it. By being the person they believed you could be. My grandmother won. I won. Love won. Everything else was just noise.